I'm Peta Akawi, and welcome to Life School, the podcast. Each episode, I'll be chatting openly and honestly with a different guest about a whole host of purposeful topics. From personal success and failure stories, to relationship advice, tips and tricks for entrepreneurs, to professional and practical guidance on living a more fulfilled and happy life. I'll be speaking to men and women from all walks of life, all with unique experiences they want to share in the hope of inspiring you. I hope throughout this series you can take away some valuable nuggets of wisdom to help you navigate through life's many twists, turns, and lessons. Here at Life School, we are all about the business of learning. So let's get on with the show. And remember, everything you go through grows you. In this episode of Life School, I have the pleasure of speaking with founder and managing director of Fox & Hound Communications, Ragg. As well as being at the helm of her own creative agency, Chloe is also mum to her two beautiful children, Hudson, who's 3, and Henley, who's just 5 weeks old. I've been lucky enough to work with Chloe over the past few years, and she has really supported me throughout my entrepreneurial journey and taught me so much. Today I'm going to be speaking with Chloe about her battle with cancer, how she juggles motherhood and running her own business, and her advice for aspiring entrepreneurs. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at LifeSchoolME for behind-the-scenes footage and further information on some of the topics we discuss today. Now let's bring on Chloe. Enjoy! Chloe, welcome to Life School. Thank you for speaking with me today.
No problem.
Considering you just had your second baby.
Yeah.
About what, a month ago?
5 weeks.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You look amazing.
Feels like yesterday.
Second time round though, right? So
a lot easier. The second time round's been a lot easier for us because the first time I had an emergency C-section and birth was really horrific and had a few problems afterwards, and first time mum, didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, everything is brand new.
This time round, planned C-section. We bought every device and contraption possible to help us.
You are very organised, so that doesn't surprise me.
Very organised. All family here to help, so it's been easy. Today was my first solo day with both kids.
And you're here, so you survived.
Just.
Okay, so let's get started. So you are the founder of Fox & Hound Communications, which is a PR, social media and digital marketing agency here in Dubai. Had you always wanted your own business, and how did you come to create Fox & Hound?
You know what? I never set out in my career to own my own business. I started in radio. After I left school, I went to uni. I tried to go to uni. I didn't actually finish uni, much to my parents' dismay.
What happened?
I went for about 2 weeks full time, as a student on campus. Actually, it might have been a semester. It was a very long time ago. And about 2 or 3 weeks into that semester, I got offered a job at the local radio station. I'd actually applied for work experience and they came back to me and said, well, we've got a job as a coordinator for radio promotions, which is essentially all the events and all the fun stuff you hear on air is coordinated by someone behind the scenes. So at the time I was thinking, do I keep going to uni and stick this out, or do I take the job and do uni externally? So I took the job and did uni part-time. I did that for a couple of years, which was fine. I did sort of probably half of or more 3/4 of my degree. Anyway, at the radio station, I was doing promotions, publicity. I was doing their social media. I was doing all sorts of different things. It was a really cool job. One of the questions that I had in an exam at uni in marketing was, what does WWW stand for? And I remember thinking, oh my gosh,
is this why I'm here?
Am I actually learning this?
Yeah.
This is mortifying. I've just paid however many tens of thousands of dollars for this degree that I got asked that question.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm learning so much more outside of uni.
Yeah.
And I have a really nice career in radio. And by that stage, I'd moved from Toowoomba to Brisbane. This is in Queensland, my hometown. So from a town to a city and to another city. And I'd been with all these different radio stations. And I just thought, this isn't for me. I'll put it on hold for a while, and so I put it on ice, and then I have not been back. I've paid my uni debt though, so
well done.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of people do not get around to that so quickly.
It's probably the most pointless money that I've ever spent.
Amazing.
So anyway, so that's essentially didn't start out wanting my own business. I moved to the UAE in 2012, worked for radio stations here. So I got brought over by Gulf News Broadcasting, which is now defunct, but it was Radio 1 and Radio 2.
So you came over here with a job?
They brought me over. I came over for an interview, went back to Australia. They offered me the job, flew me over. This was back in the glamorous Dubai days. And that was great. Did about 3 years there, and then I went and worked for a publishing house here. And it was at that time where I was meeting all of these different clients, lots of small business owners, essentially. And one of their biggest problems was that they weren't able to find an agency that didn't charge a fortune for the services, or they couldn't find someone to bring in-house that wouldn't cost them a really large salary.
And then they had to do the visa and
everything. And they might have only been specialised in one arm, which might have been marketing, or it might have been social media, and they needed someone that could sort of do across both. And because I'd worked across so many different facets of an organisation in radio, in terms of marketing, publicity, promotions, events, social media, not so much digital, but at the time, but social media, I thought, you know what, I can actually do this. And I had local experience. So I said to my partner, this is what I want to do. He was my boyfriend at the time, he's now my husband. This is what I want to do. What do you think? And he said to me, I'll give you a year of support. If it doesn't work out at the end of the year, then you can, no harm lost. You can either go back to work, or we can work on something else. So that was in 2015 or 15. I resigned from my job. And I left and started freelancing or consulting, and we are now in 2019, and a lot's changed in that time, in terms of what my work landscape looks like, as well as my family and home landscape. So at the time,
I guess the market's changed as well, hasn't it?
As well as Dubai,
go with it, and Dubai.
It's crazy. Everything's a lot different now.
Were you scared, or were you very certain in your mind? No, this is what I'm gonna do.
I knew what I wanted to do. I knew how I wanted to do it, but I had zero savings at the time. I'd lived this Dubai life. Obviously, when you come over and
the brunches.
For me, it was the travel. So obviously in Australia, I'd been to Bali and Thailand and all of the places that were just, tick boxes for any Australian. I moved here, and it was just so eye-opening being in this part of the world that I'd gone on all these holidays, and not just like outrageous holidays, but I'd travelled so much in the first few years that I lived here that that was where my savings went. And to be honest, I'm so glad I did, because
it's not money wasted.
It's not money wasted, and I have so many more experiences and things to talk about when I'm interacting with people, and it's easy now to find common ground with a lot of people if they've travelled to the same countries and things like that. So the only worry was, for me,
financial aspect.
I didn't have a lot of savings, and I had to make it work. I had to be making an income from it, because I couldn't rely on Hugh forever. And if I did get complacent and rely on him, then where does that leave you in business? So that was what I was scared about.
It comes back to you, because when you started out, you didn't have a team, right? So it's like, if I don't get up and do this,
well, no, that's the thing.
There's no one else to do it.
It's all well and good. I remember the first Sunday I didn't work, and thinking,
this is
nice.
What
do I do today? And then I was like, no, you need to work, and I'd set myself up a desk and all of that kind of stuff. But I personally found it quite hard at the start to be motivated, because I'm such a personable, I love chatting to people. My favourite part of the day when I was working was going for a coffee and seeing everyone. and
having that sort of camaraderie of your team.
So that was, suddenly finding myself by myself was really hard. So I actually ended up finding so many different cafes and places that had strong Wi-Fi that I could work from, so that even if I wasn't speaking to someone, I could see people.
You feel like you had a bit of an atmosphere around you.
So that was the first part.
How did you manage, because I feel like when you make a big decision like that, whether it's changing jobs or leaving a job to set up your own business, how do you decide who you're going to speak to? Because you want to speak to people and get advice, but then there's also a lot of people out there that will sort of scaremonger and go, what, really? You're going to do that? How did you manage that? Did you tell a lot of people? Did you sort of have a couple of people you knew you wanted to seek advice from? How did you do it?
For me, a lot of it was about looking abroad. I looked at women in similar industries that had done it on their own. I find that looking towards massive corporations that have women at the helm wasn't really something that I could look and aspire to, because these women were in a corporate role. They'd worked their way up a
Yeah.
ladder, and they didn't, you know, at the end of the day, someone was paying their salary, and that was the responsibility
Yeah.
of the company. Whereas the women that I looked up to were women that had started at, you know, at the ground level on their own, and they had built a business that way. They'd failed, they'd opened new ones, they'd done all these different things to get where they'd got to, but they were inspirational in that sense. Emma Isaacs is one of the ladies I looked up to. She has a company called Business Chicks, an organisation called Business Chicks, so global now. A lady by the name of Roxy Jasenko, she owns a PR agency. In Australia was another one, and then a couple of girlfriends back home that had just gone and done it on their own as well, and that
so
was,
understood what you were going through.
And they were more at my level, as in they'd just started out, but they were probably 6 months to a year ahead of me, and that was cool because I was like, that's awesome, it's being done by someone I know.
Yeah, you can learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, and then there were obviously all the aspirational people that had been doing it for 10 years and, you know, were killing it at their game. So obviously that was sort of a mix of people that were more at my level starting out, and then a mix of people that had been doing it for so long. But yeah, I've read about them. I remember researching a couple of these women and getting so deep into Google pages, like 4, 5, 6 pages long, reading articles about them that had been written by like Pop Sugar or Cosmo or, you know, a national
getting
paper.
Inspired.
5 years ago on them, and it was just little things. It was like, how do you start your morning? And they, you know, they were like, I'm up at 5:30 to go to the gym before my kids, this and this, and I was just like, it's a bit overwhelming. But at the same time, I was reading about these women and what they did, you know, to build their business from so long ago, and that it's not something you can learn from a textbook. It's people that have been doing it in a real life situation, and I took a lot of that on board. Did I practice a lot of it?
You got to figure out what works for you, though.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, if you can pull a few things from each person, it works. So
nice. Can you take us back to when you first found out you had cancer and how that impacted your whole life?
Yeah. So as I was saying before, there's been a lot that's happened since the day I decided to quit my business and today. It was years and years ago. I was traveling and I was going to Coachella Music Festival in America, and I was on the plane and I found a lump in the upper part of my soft palate,
like the roof
of my mouth. Yeah. And I'd been sick. I'd been physically sick actually, and I remember thinking, oh, maybe it's just something that's a bit swollen from that, like it's inflamed or whatever. Went to Coachella, did like a 3-week trip of the States, had the best time. This was 2013, and came home, booked myself in to see an ENT here, and he tested it, did all the right tests, and said that's nothing. It's a benign tumor, and it shouldn't turn to cancer. I was like, okay, that's fine, as long as the doctor says it's benign. I probably should have got a second opinion.
And can I just ask, when you were on that trip, had you felt funny?
No. I was at this.
Well, you were fine.
This was 2013. So at this stage, I was completely fine. Super healthy, single, happy, all of the words. That doctor had said to me, if anything ever changes, if you feel anything different, or if you start to feel really weak or tired, you need to come back or see someone else. So just before I got married, we got married in Sri Lanka. We had a big wedding party in Sri Lanka, actually. We'd been married for about a year before that, but we had this amazing wedding. About 2 weeks before that, I thought I'd burnt my mouth on some food, and there sort of seemed to be like a little bit of skin hanging down from the lump. You know when you burn your mouth?
Yeah.
I have to try and explain it to people, but that's the only way.
I've done that before, and it kind of feels like a loose, like a
flap of skin. Anyway, I thought, it's not going away, I'll go to the doctor. I went to the doctor, and he had a different one, and he said, I think that's basically a human papilloma. They tend to grow, but we need to just check it, because if it is, you'll need to get that lump removed, because while the human papilloma isn't cancerous, it is a sign that something can turn nasty down the track. So I was like, okay, that's fine, at least it's not cancer, whatever. They took a sample, sent it away, and then basically I went to Sri Lanka with all my family, 120 of our friends, and I got a call the day before our wedding from the doctor here just saying, look, you should probably come in when you get back. The results haven't come back exactly how we thought they were going to. And I was like, can you explain more on the phone? And he's just said, look, I think this is probably a conversation we need to have in person. Anyway, so it was the day before my wedding. So got married. We moved our flights earlier to come back to Dubai. So we left the day after the wedding.
Did you put it out of your mind, or did you feel like it overshadowed?
No, not at all. I didn't tell anyone. So I told my husband, but we didn't tell my family or anything, because I didn't want it to wreck anyone else's day either, because my mum and dad would have been so worried. I kind of, in my mind, I was kind of just like, just forget, like there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Quite good at shutting off that kind of stuff, so it was not too bad. And I knew that we were going home like a day or two later. Went home, and he said basically they tested the little bit of skin, and they accidentally took some cells from the tumour, which in my mind means they probably should have taken more, but they didn't take enough. And anyway, he said they've come back suspicious, so it's not looking great. The tumour's looking like it could be cancer. Anyway, my mum and dad were here with us, and they just said, you need to go home and get this looked at immediately. So I flew with my parents pretty much the next day back to Australia.
Was that because there's no doctors here that specialised in that particular area, or you just wanted to be home because it's such a massive deal?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of the fact that it took 10 days for them to send a sample to Germany to be tested and come back. My parents, who were obviously, come home.
Yeah.
And the fact that I had my son, Hudson, he was only 6 months old at the time. So I needed a little bit of help, and it was just all these things. And I thought, you know what, I'll just go home. We ended up getting into a specialist in Australia who, within 24 hours, had tested and called me. And I'll never forget it. I was in a car park in the mall or shopping centre at home with my mum, and we'd been shopping for a while, and we were just waiting for the phone call. And he called as I was hopping into the car, and he just said, look, I've got some bad news. It's cancer. You've got cancer of the salivary glands. The tumour is what's called a mucoepidoid carcinoma. And I remember sitting in the back of the car, and I was like, okay, great, fantastic. And my mum was looking at me as if, great, you don't have cancer. And I just said, what stage is it? And that's when I just looked, and my mum was like, oh. And he just said, we've caught it quite early. You're lucky because this one is early and good, late and it's fatal. There's sort of not really too many stages with this type of cancer. And then I started crying, obviously, because I was just like, oh crap, this is not good. And he basically said to me, look, I'm going to give you a positive chat, I guess. He said if I was to choose having a cancer, I'd choose this one, because once we remove the tumour, he said there shouldn't be any need for you to have anything further, and it shouldn't come back. Anyway, so that was that. And then like a week later, I was in hospital having the operation. It was a 10-hour operation. They had to remove the tumour, and because it was in such a weird spot, being the soft palate of my mouth, and they have to take a centimetre margin all around it. They actually had to do quite an extensive operation. They took some of my jaw out, back of my jaw, my tonsils and everything, which is fine. And then they did a skin graft from my arm.
Which is why you have
I've got all the mad scarring there, to replace the skin in the top of my soft palate, because there wasn't enough to stitch it back closed. And then while they were doing the MRIs and everything beforehand, they noticed that a lot of my lymphatic system on this side was swollen. So they cut me open from here to here and removed, from memory, maybe 20 or 30 of my lymph nodes.
Just to be safe,
to be safe, but also they needed to test the ones that were swollen. There are hundreds in here, but they got rid of a few main ones out of here. Anyway, stayed for quite a while in hospital, and all of the tests came back. So the lymph nodes were fine, and they'd removed as much of the cancer as they could. So it was all good. And I've obviously been having checkups regularly. I flew back to Australia every 8 weeks for the first year just to see my oncologist there. They found another lump in my mouth in the same spot last July, which was pretty scary because it came through on an MRI, and it was in the exact same position where the cancer was, and it was about the same size.
You must have just thought, oh my God, here we go again.
Yeah, I kind of was like, what? My initial reaction was, I've got no more skin left.
Yeah, what
are
they going to do?
Like, how do you get rid of that? And they tried a few times to sort of test it through my nasal passage, and they couldn't. And I ended up going under here. I found an amazing ENT one of the hospitals, and he said, look, I'm just going to go in and test it. And when he tested it, he went, I can take this out. So he took it out, and it turned out to just be some fatty tissue growing back in the scar, which was fine. And then he said to me, you know, essentially, you're clear. This is your first year of year one. I won't go into remission for another couple of years.
Because remission is how many years?
4 to 5.
And then after that, you are officially all clear.
Cancer-free.
You're cancer-free.
So I've still got a couple of years left, or three years left now. But he was like, you can, you know, if you wanted to have another baby, you've probably got a nice window of, you know, we've taken it out, there's nothing right, you know, nothing wrong. So we decided to have another baby then, and that's Henley, who's now 5 weeks old.
And hence why we've now got Henley. But so you found out you had cancer, you've got a 6-month-old baby, and a new business, because you'd already left your job at that point, right?
Yeah,
you'd had your own thing going on
So I left my job in towards the end of 2015. I got pregnant 2 months later, which wasn't planned. Amazing now. Had the baby, and then we were he was about 6 or 7 months old when I found out. And the hardest part for me was the fact that I spent so much time in hospital, and my parents had to look after him, which they loved. And my husband stayed in Dubai because he had just started a new job as well. So he came home for the operation, but for the most part of the months I spent in Australia, he was there. I had a few clients that kept me on, as in they just said, do what you can for us, and then when you come back, we'll keep going, which was amazing because that was a nice steady bit of income. But the business took a huge hit in terms of clients. I remember I just signed a client here, a restaurant group that had 8 locations at the time, and I've been working with them for 2 months, and it was amazing. It's an Australian brand. And I told them what had happened, gone back to Australia, and I just said, look, this is what's happening. I'm not sure what position it's going to leave me in terms of work. And about 2 days later, they came back to me and they just said, look, we've loved working with you, but we really need someone on the ground here. And I remember just being so upset because I was like, it took me so long to get that contract. Anyway, they've got about 30 locations now in the UAE. So they've been doing well. But that was really tough. There were a couple of them. It wasn't just one. I probably had about 6 or 7 clients at the time, and I came back to Dubai with 1 or 2, and those 2 clients I've still got today. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But I came back and I kind of was like, all right, I've had my time in Australia. You know, I've had some nice time off with my son because I never had any maternity leave with him. I just went straight back to work as soon as he was born, so I had some nice time there. And one of my clients that I was working with had said to me, we love doing what we love working with you, and we can see that you do a good job, but you are understaffed and you need help. So he said, I'll invest in your company and we'll get you started in terms of an actual proper business with staff and bricks and mortar and whatever else. And that was...
And had you even thought about getting an investor previously? Is that something you'd had on your mind?
No, because I just thought it was so hard to do. Like, I just thought, investors, my gosh, that's so scary. Like, not the money side of it, but like, why would anyone invest in me was more my, my mentality. So when I found him, I still work with him. He's still on the sideline, and he's just quite easegoing, and he's always there for a chat and support.
And allowed you to grow your business to the next
and he's got
level.
Really successful businesses, one of which is our client. So I mean, there's a lot you can learn from him, but at the same time, he doesn't play an active role in my business, so he lets me run it exactly how I want to, which is great.
That must have just felt like a godsend after everything you've been through. You must have just been like, okay, this is more like it, whoever's upstairs. This is what we need now after all of that.
It was just so surreal. I remember when we worked out the initial plan in terms of what the investment would look like and the structure and everything like that. And I'd had the business account set up for a month or 2 prior to this. So just everything fell into place. And I went on holiday. We had a wedding, and I went to Cyprus with my husband and my son, and I was sitting on the beach in Cyprus. It was my husband's 30th birthday, and I got the text message from the bank to say that the investment had been put in my bank.
I love those text messages. Money coming in, yes.
And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is like the most money I will ever see in my bank account. It was in the work account, so it was obviously not my money, but I remember thinking, oh my God, this is actually happening. Like, it's happened. I've taken investment in my company.
This is it now.
And you know what? A lot of people think investment is such a scary thing because it's someone else owning part of your business. But for me, it was, why have 100% of $5 when I can have 50% of $100? And that was my mentality at the time. And if anything, it's made me better at business and better at growing this organisation that I've tried to do, because I would never have been able to do that. I might have had one or two staff members, but it would have been such a slow scale that it would have been tricky doing it on my own, to be honest.
And how many operations did you have from that first initial massive 10-hour one to now? So I
had the big one, and they managed to do most of what they needed to do. I've had obviously countless MRIs and scans since then, and then I had another one last July, just to remove the lump
one
in
that
there
was just
again.
the fatty cell one.
It's weird, I must have like a lumpy body, because I've had, when I was 18, I had quite a large lump taken out of my right breast, a fibroadenoma, and I'm sure there are more in here.
Yeah.
But we'll find them.
And for the big operation, had you ever had any kind of operation before?
Just the one
just
that I had
one.
Here. And I had the cesarean with Hudson. And that's
of course, before.
It's not the same.
It's different. What would be your advice for anyone that's about to have a big operation, a big scary operation like that? Like, how did you mentally prepare for something like that?
Do you know what? I think with me it was that we didn't have a lot of time to prepare for it, and that was probably a good thing. I had a week. They just said, we'll book you in next Wednesday. Yeah. The scariest part was when we were meeting the anesthesiologist and all the medical people that we need to talk to, and then I went and met my oncologist and the surgeon afterwards, and I had to sign all the waivers, and one of the things they ran me through was the fact that an operation of that length has quite a high mortality rate, in terms of, anything can happen when they've got your body assisted for that long. So I had to sign a specific form that basically just said, you understand that there is a high mortality rate and that anything can happen, and do I sign my life away for a tracheotomy in case I stop breathing and all this stuff. Anyway,
these are like huge decisions that you have to make.
Well, I
quickly.
said to my oncologist, I was like, we were talking about the skin graft, and I just said, is there another option instead of taking apart my arm? And he just went, well, the other option's dying from cancer. And he was so straight about it. And I was like, excellent, where do I sign?
Yeah, sign me up.
So that was pretty full on in terms of prep, if, having to go through all of that kind of stuff. The day before, it was just my mum, Hudson, Hugh, and myself. And we went out to breakfast. We went to the water park. There's a water park in Brisbane. And we just did really nice things, had a nice dinner, had a glass of wine, and then I had to start fasting from 9. I cried myself to sleep that night, and I cried the entire night until I woke up. Well, I didn't actually sleep.
How would you be able to sleep?
Because my biggest thought or thing that kept running through my mind was, I've got a 7-month-old baby. I might never see him again, and that was the worst part. It wasn't like, might have to chop my arm off or anything, or anything like that. I was just worried that I wouldn't get to see him. So that was pretty full on. And we got to hospital, and it happened at 6 a.m. in the morning, which was also amazing because I didn't have a whole day to think
wait
about
the whole day,
and I was so, I cried from the minute I woke up to the minute I got to hospital. Even, I'm not going to say I was strong about it because I was an absolute mess. Got into hospital, got changed into the gown, went through all of the process of getting there, and then they said, say goodbye to your husband, and that was tough. He left, he cried he was so strong, and then he said once he got out of the room, he just sat there and cried.
Yeah, because he wants to be strong for you.
Yeah. I wouldn't even have noticed if, I was just so upset. Anyway, got into the operating theatre, and they can see that I was an absolute wreck, and they said to me, look, we're going to give you a sedative before we give you the anaesthetic, because I thought they'd just give me the anaesthetic and I'd pass out.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, sure. And he just said, look, it's like having a glass of wine. I was like, Jesus, you better give me so many more. it needs to be like at least 2 bottles.
Yeah.
Anyway, sure enough, within like 20 seconds, I felt so drunk that I don't remember anything. And apparently I was awake for the 15 minutes that...
And you don't remember that at all?
Which is really weird, but...
So you're in this like woozy state and then they put you to sleep?
Yeah, but I remember, my last thing I remember feeling was, oh my God, I feel so drunk. And then I woke up 10 hours later.
And what was it like when you woke up?
I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm alive.
Was that your first thought?
I'm alive, and I was so happy I was alive, and I was in so much pain, like everything, and I just had all these cords, and I was in an armchair, I think. It was horrific. Or my hospital bed, I actually can't remember. Yeah. Yeah, it was insane. But I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm alive. This is amazing.
And obviously you were young, healthy, fit. So this isn't anything to do with your lifestyle, or this just happened. This is totally random.
What causes the cancer? Like, obviously no one really knows what causes cancer. It can be so many different things. And I just said, what causes this? And he said, well, have you smoked? And I said, I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. And he went, well, you're just unlucky. So
there's no rhyme or reason
No rhyme or reason. I'm not a passive smoker. Like, there was just no reason as to why I should have it, unfortunately.
And I guess the message to people is, if you have anything that you're worried about, just go and get it checked out. Even if you think it's really silly and it's nothing, just go and get it checked out, because you just never know.
I was just like, I didn't know I didn't know I had glandular fever until 6 months later. I'm like, how do you not feel your body it's trying to tell you something?
Because people
that's
stop
wrong.
listening.
Yeah, and this is people who don't know they're pregnant for 5 or 6 months. I'm like, it's actually impossible. Like, you're just
in denial.
Yeah, I know. Or when people are chronically sick or they're chronically tired. For me, I had no symptoms apart from the lump. But the minute I found it, I was like, I should get that checked out. Yeah. That's not normal. The minute the little skin tag thing came back on it, I was like, I should get that checked out. That's not normal.
Yeah,
so,
which is just the right thing 100%.
To do. 100%. And for a while after the operation, a couple of lymph glands in this side were really swollen to the point where you could touch them and feel a pea size. And they'd said to me, if anything swells up, come back.
Yeah.
So I kept going back and I kept asking them to test it. I kept getting scans, ultrasounds on them. I kept having MRIs, and I'd even asked for them to needle biopsy one of them. And the doctors must just think, oh God, go away, we've told you it's not cancer. But I kept asking until I'd had like 4 doctors rule out that it wasn't cancer. And because that's the first place this cancer would spread, would be to my lymphatic system. So I don't think you can be too pushy in terms of
don't be shy with these things.
And I always say, when people have had something, they go, I've just been told this by the doctor. I'm like, have you had a second opinion? I'm not saying that every doctor's wrong, but like, just keep getting opinions until you get all the facts and information and then make a decision. We're really lucky. We had amazing medical in Australia, and I found a really amazing surgeon here. So,
and thank God you just went.
Yeah.
From the minute you felt something, you went.
Yeah. That was partly Mum, who was like, just
Good
go
old
to
Mum.
Australia, go on the plane. So, and I kind of was just like, okay, yeah, they're right, I need to go. So,
what's the most challenging thing about running your own business?
Cash flow. When we don't get paid by a client, it affects every...
It has a knock-on effect
it
for your
affects
business.
the people that we have to pay. It affects myself. I don't pay myself a salary. When that happens, like, there are so many things. Secondly, managing staff. Really tricky. I'd never managed anyone before. I'd worked alongside people. I might have had someone report to me on a project or something really simple, but I never actually
had your own team. Yeah.
Never had my own team. I was difficult to manage. Any of my bosses will tell you that. Like, I look back now and I know that I was difficult to manage because I'm managing, people that aren't as easy. They're not hard to manage, but I can see traits in a couple of people that I used to have as myself. I would have been a complete pain in the ass to manage. And I know that, and I always ended up having these disagreements and fights with my boss because I just didn't see eye to eye to them. Did I think it was better? No, it's just I just didn't agree with the way they were working.
Yeah,
they were probably right in some cases. I was probably right, and that's hard, and I can see a lot of that coming through now. So managing people's tricky, and it's a full-time job as well as all the work you do.
And do you think it's almost harder here because it's so transient, and I feel like people's lives change very quickly here? So you might meet someone tomorrow and they live in another country, so then suddenly you're moving country very quickly, or do you feel like that impacts it, or it's just generally
to be honest,
really
I've found
task?
that we've only had one staff member leave since I started, and I've got 8. So
wow, that's impressive.
I've had all of them since the day one. I'm so worried that some of them will leave.
That's an amazing reflection on you, though.
It's hard, and I don't have unlimited funds to be able to do things like big days out here and nights out here and stuff like that. So when we're trying to motivate them to do good work and to like the agency and to stay, it's about finding ways that appeal to them probably as an individual. And I always try and remember what appealed to me, and it was time off, extra holidays, money, and then obviously trying to make a really relaxed and happy and friendly work environment, one that's not like you have to work until 10 until your job's done. I'm more about building not flexible hours, but a flexible environment for people.
Yeah, but you very much lead by example, I think, because you do work like 24/7.
I'm always out getting my nails done.
You're always doing emails at
well, that's
10
the
o'clock
thing.
at night.
I might have something to do in the morning. I might have something to do in the afternoon. Like Hudson needs needles. He needs vaccination. That takes 3 hours. I have to get home, get there. And then afterwards we have to get ice cream because he's still crying. And then I get home and suddenly that's a big part of my day gone.
Chunk that you've got to make up for.
Well, that's the thing. And I never hide the fact that I have to do that because
it's real life.
It's real life. Yeah. But I'll still, if I have to, I'll work at night or I'll get up early in the morning. I don't know how it's going to go. I go back to work tomorrow. So, yeah, I've been on my emails for a couple of weeks just from home though, but I actually go
easing yourself in a little bit.
Go in tomorrow. So I don't know how my morning will look. Whereas if I needed to do extra work and make up those hours somewhere, I'd do it in the morning just because no one was awake. But it's 2 children now, and one of them might be awake.
Yeah.
So, but at night time is probably when it's going to happen.
It's going to be a juggling act.
Yep.
But with your team, do you feel like, because I think if you feel valued and respected, it makes you want to work harder.
Yeah.
But then everyone has different ways that they feel valued and respected. So do you have to kind of...
Everyone has different ways, but everyone has different ways of working as well.
Yeah, so you need to treat people as an individual, right?
Puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
You know what? I think a lot of when you manage someone, it isn't just about managing their tasks, like their daily to-do list. It's about, working out what it is that drives them.
What makes them tick.
Yeah, elsewhere. I've got, girls that love the flexibility or like the ability to go on leave, whenever they have, and they know that they have to work on their holiday to get whatever they need to get done. If they've got it done, great, they can go, but they can have as much leave as they want. That's the kind of flexible environment we want. But everyone's different in terms of what makes them work in an office environment, and that's the hard part, is because you can't please everyone with a cookie cutter mold. So just trying to obviously understand how they all operate and put those puzzle pieces together in terms of what they want, what they like, what they don't like, and then on top of that, make sure they're doing their work as well, because that's important.
Yeah.
So,
well, you must be doing a good job if you've had the same team.
Yeah, it's stressful. I know a lot about them now, and I just don't ever know how into a situation where you have 50 or 60 staff and still have really personal relationships with everyone. That would really stress me out, because I need to know everyone's name and their kids and their boyfriends and all that kind of stuff.
Maybe then it's about creating a culture rather than, because once you get to that level, even with all the will in the world, how can you know 100 people's names and their backstories 100%. And everything?
Ask me 3 or 4 years ago what it would be like to leave my job and work by myself. I'd be like, oh gosh, I don't know, that's such an unknown, scary.
Yeah.
Now it's you ask, those 3 years have gone, but what in the next 3 years, what if I did manage to scale up to 20 or 30 people? That's my big unknown now, is whether we do that or I don't do that and still manage quite a small team. So I mean, there's so many unknowns when you're in a business, running a business, that I think you just take every day as it comes.
Yeah,
and
you can only predict so much.
Say yes and work the rest later.
Yeah.
I like that. It'll either happen or it won't happen. You learn from your mistakes. So all the cliches in the world.
How do you find the balance between being a business owner, a boss, a wife, and a mother? Not necessarily in that order of importance, by the way.
Tough. I mean, I could put all of my focus into being a mother. I could put all my focus into being the best wife possible. I could put all my focus into owning a business. The rest will fall apart. So I think it's, I don't want to say I spread myself thin, but there are elements of my life that I wish I could do more for. Like, I wish I could be at home with Hudson and probably Henley now as well, a lot more. But I know that at the end of the day, I'm working so that they have, a better quality of life when they're little, or when they're older. Again, I could put 150 more hours into work, and that would probably make it a lot better. But at the end of the day, I just wouldn't see my family. So it's just it's just juggling, to be honest. And every day as it comes, I don't make plans for the next month because I know that'll change.
And I'm sure there's probably some weeks where you feel like, this week I need to prioritise work because we've got a big pitch and a big event or whatever it might be. And then the following week you're like, now I'm going to spend some quality time with my kids, or I'm going to have a date night with Hugh, or... Yeah,
I mean, it ebbs and flows. There's always, trying to rob Peter to pay Paul, I think, in terms of how business works. Like, I'm taking a little bit...
I feel like I've done that my whole life.
Yeah, to be honest, that should be the business name.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's a struggle and a balance and a juggle.
Are there things that have helped you?
Yeah, having a nanny. Cherry is our helper at home, and without her, in terms of the fact that she runs a household while we're out, and I wouldn't have her if we're in Australia. I wouldn't have her if we're in another country. And I know that a lot of people don't have that help, and I honestly don't know how they do it. Like, I genuinely am. How do people work full time, have kids, and try and do washing at night time? I know it's done. My mum did it. And, I could do it. It's just I wouldn't be a very pleasant person. Yeah. To be honest, our nanny left us for about 6 months, and not this nanny, our old nanny. And we thought, you know what, we can manage. We'll just put Hudson into nursery. Put him into nursery full time. He was sick all the time. We'd get notes home saying he was biting kids and he'd never bitten anyone. And before he was only 12, he was a year old. The house was falling apart. I was still trying to work, but I was trying to put, loads of laundry on and make sure he had a healthy lunch that didn't have anything with sugar in it the next day. Like, it was just a really stressful time. And I had staff coming at me from all angles for this, and that was fine. We found Cherry, and honestly, if you can afford it, or if you're in a position, having help is amazing. It's not for everyone, and even if it's only someone coming in for 2 hours to do your laundry or your ironing, or to do the floors, clean the house, any little bit helps. Give you a bit of time back. I still do a lot of stuff around the house, and still have 2 children that need to be kept alive, and a husband that's in the same boat. Yeah, but it's a lot easier.
And amongst all of this, do you ever get time just for yourself?
Yeah, I make time for myself.
You do?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at prioritising that time.
Yeah, because I think that's really important.
Honestly, I don't know now with Henley. I haven't had a lot of time to myself the last 5 weeks, just because she's a newborn and she needs her mum.
She needs you.
I think it's a lot easier with one child. In saying that, Fridays is really only ever my day where I've got nothing. I try and do nothing for work on a Friday. I really try hard. I try not to open my laptop, and then on Saturday,
that's the thing.
Yeah, and then even my phone,
the WhatsApp,
and my iWatch, and it finds
everything.
Work finds me. Yeah. And then on Saturdays, obviously, I sort of float in and out of work. But I think we'll try and stick to that as well, in terms of having Friday as a day for
purely just a family day. Yeah.
I've been thinking and toying with the idea of taking Thursday or Thursday afternoon off to hang out with Hudson as well, just to do stuff with him on his own. Yeah. But we'll see how that goes. Someone will put an urgent meeting in for Thursday, and I will go to it.
Yeah, team meeting. What would be your advice to anyone listening who is thinking about leaving their 9 to 5 to set up their own business?
About 2 years ago, I would have been like, do it. You can do it. Which is probably still my first bit of advice. If you're passionate enough about doing it, definitely do it. If you don't do it now, your competitors will do it before you, which is, something to always think about. However, do it when it's the right time in your life. I mean, I wish I'd started earlier. I wish I'd done 5 or 6 years. I don't think in the last couple of jobs I had, I don't think I learnt a lot. I think I'd got to a point where I knew I probably wanted to do something like this, and I wasn't furthering myself in my career. I was just taking the next job.
Yeah.
So I think if
just
you're
comfortable.
I was comfortable. If you're in that position, that's probably where you could leave your job. Think about it thoroughly. Make sure you've got support in terms of if anything goes wrong. You've got someone to probably help you out a little bit. It's, again, not everyone has that person, but if you do, it makes, the months where maybe a client doesn't pay you, or, something happens with the business, or you've got unforeseen expenses, things like that, it makes that a little bit, easier to wear. Otherwise, I would say go for it. I think you can only learn. Whether it fails and you learn, or whether it's a success and you learn, and you
either way,
inspire
that's
other
a
people,
positive thing.
you're going to learn something. And at the end of the day, you can always get another job. Always go back to work, as in work for someone else. It's not, not a big deal.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it.
Okay, so we're going to do a quick fire round.
Oh, yeah.
Favourite quote?
Persistence beats resistance.
Oh, I like that. I haven't heard that before, actually.
So I don't know where I heard
it.
There's literally no story, but keep knocking on that door until someone answers. Persistence beats resistance.
I like that.
I actually said that about finding my husband. He dumped me after about 3 months of being together, and I knew I wanted to marry him, and I was like, persistence beats resistance.
I'm sorry, I'm not taking no for an answer.
And I remember saying it to someone, and they were like, you're a complete psycho. I was like, I'll get him. In the end.
It's like that song, Cute But a Psycho. Best piece of life advice you've ever been given?
Just to get up and go for it. It's basically the day I quit my job, I'd been to a seminar that morning with a really influential speaker, and she was basically just said, if you don't do it today, someone else will do it, and they'll do it with a head start on you, so just get up and go. And that was, I walked into my job and quit that afternoon. Amazing. And then panicked. And then wrote a business plan.
Just do it and figure the rest out later.
Yeah.
Favorite tool or app for helping organize your life?
I am a paper person, so I still haven't crossed over to the app side yet. I barely even use the calendar in my Outlook.
So you write everything down?
People put things in my diary now, as in all my staff put their meetings and any photo shoots and anything we're doing in my diary. So I know what everyone's doing. And if I'm on one of those, I click accept and I know that I'm there. If I've got meetings, generally I'll ask someone to send me a meeting request for it. I have a diary, like an actual leather.
Old school.
I know. And my husband's like, you need to get digital, babe. And I'm like, oh.
Because I thought you'd give me some kind of incredible app. But you listen to really amazing podcasts and you read a lot. So I thought maybe you'd come across something that's reinvented the way you organise your work life.
I have everything. I have Apple everything.
Yeah,
the
so
watch, the
synced.
phone, the head things, everything. I have a Kindle. I listen to podcasts. I do all of that. I run and I track everything on an app. I have tech around me.
But there's not one thing
paper diary.
Paper diary.
Yeah, I actually find if I'm brainstorming or if I've got lists or things like that, I actually find it's better written down for me, and I still haven't found that app where I can type and sync and it'll, I can look at it and it will remind me. I've lost diaries in the past. I remember losing one about 2 years ago. I left it in the back of an Uber in Media City.
So much notes and stuff.
It had notes, it had all my passwords, it had stupid stuff in it. So I don't keep all my passwords in my diary now. I have an Excel sheet that's got everything in it. But I can't give you any advice on the best.
Maybe someone will give us some advice after listening
I
to
have
this.
downloaded all of the apps and nothing's functional enough for me, and that's I could probably invent something now.
Yeah, this is the next business. WhatsApp or email?
Oh gosh, like a dirty question in our office. We get hounded by clients on WhatsApp. I've got a WhatsApp group for every client of the agency pretty much that has all of the staff on it, which is really fun. I think it serves a purpose in terms of an immediate communication, but when a client, this is in a business sense, but when a client tries to take a little bit further and either make a complaint or do a brief on WhatsApp or tell you something really important, that's when I would step in and go, can you please email this to us just so I can share it with the team, or just so I can, flag it as something I have to do today. Sharing a little bit of content, or, asking a client something as simple as what time are you open during Ramadan, it can probably happen on WhatsApp. It's something that's unavoidable as well. WhatsApp is not going away.
I feel like it's almost got to the point where if you don't want to have it, you need a work phone with it on.
Yeah.
Because like my first 10 WhatsApps are all just client groups, work related. Like there's only a few people I actually speak to, like friends-wise, via WhatsApp.
I tried having 2 phones. Again, going
That
back.
sounds hectic though as well.
So much tech around me.
Yeah.
I had 2 phones. I had 2 phones for about 3 years. It just became one phone because if one was flat or I'd run out of data, then I read a message and they're like, oh, here's another number we can call Chloe on, and suddenly I'd have 2
and they can hound you anyway.
Clients calling on both numbers, and one wasn't personal and one wasn't work, or I'd confuse all my friends. It's actually quite a funny saga. I've changed my number so many times over the past 7 or 8 years that everyone's like, which number do I call you on? And I'm like, just delete.
Yeah, I've got like 4 numbers for you.
Yeah, I know. I had an Australian number when I was there. I've had all sorts of numbers. So I've got one phone number now, and that's actually streamlined a lot of communication for me. And we're pretty good now with clients. We won't necessarily open client WhatsApp chats on the weekend. Like we can see what it says, and if it's something that can wait till Sunday, we'll leave it there till wait. And we're pretty good at telling them that that's how we operate.
Yeah, you got to set those boundaries, haven't you, from day one? There'll always be the ones that try and overstep the mark, but with WhatsApp now, you can never get away. Biggest pet peeve when it comes to business?
Oh gosh, clients that don't. Well, I'm talking in my terms because it's clients. But in general, people that don't listen. So when you have to explain something 2 or 3 times and then they come at you having not understand something that you've shared with them and something that's taken you quite a long time to put together in a format that they will understand, and they don't read it, they don't listen, they don't acknowledge it, and then they come at you, quite aggressively with why is this not working, or why did you do this, or what's happened here? As I mentioned in my email, or as we spoke about, and then I find that in that situation I end up sounding awful. I end up sounding like I'm condescending to them, or as if I'm snarky because
I think you're really good.
I'm referencing
I've seen you in situations like this, and I think you're really good at staying calm.
Oh, there've been a couple of times lately where I've tried to stay calm, but it's to the point where I'm like, you need to read your emails better, or and
just go back and read that, and then
please find attached all references to that conversation.
As mentioned in my previous
and on the phone,
emails.
and in the meeting we had last week, I've actually had to write a sentence that was as mentioned in the last 2 meetings, and attached email and the phone call. Please understand that we're trying and we're not being difficult, but we have explained this to you in so many different forms. Would you like me to come in and talk to you about it again? And those situations I've tried over the years so many times to work out a better system. If clients are struggling to understand, it's still something that I struggle with every day. I did a workshop years ago where they basically were talking about how you digest information, whether you're a visual person. And for me, I'm very visual. That's probably why I like a paper diary, because it's written there in front of me. Whether you take it better by listening, whether you digest in your own time, all these different ways. So I try and work out what the client is at that time, at the start of a contract or at the start of meeting them, and then try and work to them. And that's hard because I'm such a visual person. So when it's explained to me or written and drawn, I'm really good with that. So me having to go the other way for a client is like retraining myself to go that way. So that's quite difficult, but it's probably a concern or a problem.
I feel like maybe
have.
Sometimes clients don't know how they digest information the best either. No. And they've been asked to get it in a certain way, which you then go and do, they're not getting it.
We send really beautiful content plans to our clients on, designed and sent in an attachment. It's got images and captions and everything like that. Same with advertising plans. And then we've got clients that don't have laptops. So suddenly, I know
who doesn't
it's
have
outrageous.
A laptop?
Well, if they own restaurants or whatever it is, like they've got people that obviously do all of their ordering and everything for them, and they're kind of trying to operate on their phone, on email.
Oh, buy a laptop.
Yeah, I'm sure they have one. Oh. I'm sure they just bury it away. But they're trying to look at something that's quite visual on a screen this big.
On a small screen.
They don't get it and they don't understand it and they just ignore it, or then they come back with feedback that's not relevant. So I think it's just trying to understand how they operate as well, like whether that's just we need to take the printed out, which is so old school,
or let's
walk in with it, like
together.
let's go in and through it together and you can see it bigger. So that trying to find where everyone sits, and that's the same with staff. I've got an amazing designer and he prints everything out. So and he prints and he sits it beside him and he's visual, so he's
and we'll make notes on the printouts. Yeah.
And then I've got girls that just everything is digital, like they don't have paper.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of sit between both. Like I have everything, but I still write stuff down.
Yeah. What's your most important life lesson so far?
Look after your health, if anything. Definitely not thinking that I was super healthy. Well, not super healthy. Like I still drink a glass of wine and eat a burger and don't go to the gym for 2 weeks. Like I'm under no illusions of being like a fit free. I'm normal. That was my life before I got sick, and then I had cancer, and I didn't do anything to get cancer. I didn't smoke. I wasn't obese. Like there are so many things that I could have probably done to get that type of cancer, but I just had it, and I was unlucky, I guess. But it wasn't necessarily about changing something beforehand, but it was about looking after myself afterwards. And my husband and I both changed our diet quite dramatically afterwards. We eat a lot more plant-based food now. We try not to eat as much meat and dairy. We still eat it. We're not, under any illusion of living a plant-based life.
But you're trying to do your best.
Yeah, we use a lot more natural and organic stuff in the house in terms of cleaning products, because that's around us all the time. So there are a lot of things that we've tried to take into consideration when we're just everyday life without stripping our life back too much. But I'm just so conscious of keeping healthy now. Like when I found out I was pregnant with Henley, I really started investing in my skin, started walking for mental health. I started getting all the right vitamins into me. I got tested for all of that kind of stuff. So I went to the doctor and said, what am I...
Nice, you could see what you were lacking
What's my blood and vitamins like? At the time I got pregnant, I was lacking a little bit of vitamin D and B12. At the time I had Henley, I was severely lacking in iron because that pregnancy takes it from me. So I'm keeping abreast of all of that kind of stuff and just trying to be as healthy as possible. I'm not a size 0. We still eat all the meat and stuff whenever we feel like it. We still drink every now and then. Like there's, we've got a really normal life, but we're so much more aware of it now.
Because of when you got sick. Before that, were you just kind of...
Before that, I was like... I'd go to brunch. I'd double brunch. I'd eat junk the next day. I'd drink coffee. Sometimes I wouldn't have enough water. Like I just didn't care for myself. I didn't actually know what I was putting in either. Also how it affects you in terms of your just daily energy levels. Like I feel a lot better and have a lot more energy now. We eat a lot better as well. But I think just take care of your health. There's that saying, I'm sure it's like
health is wealth.
There's another one. It's your body is the only house.
Oh yeah, it's the only house you'll ever live in forever or something. Yeah, I'm so guilty of that. I'm like, well, once I've got that thing out the way, then I'll start being healthy. Like it's never a priority, and it should be. I don't know why we do that.
Do you know what? I listened to one of the podcasts from ages ago that I was listening to, and it kind of relates back to what all these successful women said. They said, start your day right and the rest will fall into place. And just after Christmas, it was beautiful weather in Dubai, and I remember thinking, you know what, I'm going to go for a walk tomorrow morning. And I got up at 5:30 and went for a walk. It was only sort of 3 Ks. It took me about 45 minutes. And I came home and I made a smoothie and took my vitamins, and my day was so much better. So I continued doing that throughout the whole rest of my pregnancy, and I still do that now.
Amazing.
First couple of weeks after Henley, obviously I was at home recovering, but just getting out and walking. You don't have to run, you don't have to do like mad exercise, but just clearing your mind. I was listening to podcasts while I was walking, and that was just amazing to hear all these other inspirational people talking. And then I'd go home and make myself a smoothie that had everything in it, and then
just start your day
take my
properly.
vitamins and just know that my day had, if anything, I'd done that hour of the day.
Yeah.
And that's also time for myself. Although I walked with Hudson a few times. Obviously, if he was awake, I'd take him in the buggy, and I'd probably take Henley now because she's awake at that hour. But like, I had that time as well to just not talk to anyone in that hour of the morning
and not do that. Like, I went through a phase of I'd open my eyes and the first thing I do was look at my phone.
I still do that.
And then it starts.
I'm guilty.
So then, like, you spend 10 minutes in bed replying to things that you think are really urgent.
Yeah.
And then the first hour of your day, like, you're already stressed. You're already like, oh my God, I've got to do this. I've got to do a million things. And that's not how you should start your day. I got better at that.
I still haven't managed to kick that. Like, I'll look at my phone, I'll check my WhatsApps first, my emails, I'll check Instagram, I'll check Facebook, and then I'm like, okay, that's done, and I'll carry on. That needs to go. That's something that's probably like
it's really draining.
That's probably like a habit breaker though. Like, you need 21 days to cut that out.
Yeah.
Next.
I try, but now it's more like I'll give myself 10 minutes, have a coffee, but then I'm checking. So it's not like I'm doing a whole hour and I go on a nice walk but I try not to do it the minute I open my eyes.
Yeah.
Then it depends what you've got on at the time. That's the thing. If you could give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, there are many, many, many pieces of advice that I would give my 18-year-old self. Travel more, so start traveling earlier. I didn't really travel until I was 24. Like, I went to a couple of places in Asia, but nothing. Travel more, learn, like, not necessarily uni either. And I'm a big advocate of uni isn't a mold that everyone fits.
I didn't go to uni.
Yeah, I don't think that it's for everyone. But you can still learn no matter what you do. You can read, you can research, you can listen to other people. Traveling is learning, I think, as well. Travel, and just go for it. Like, I as I was saying before, like, I kind of wish I'd started my business earlier because, you know, I'd be a lot more ahead of where I am today, that's probably just an unachievable thing anyway. That I think that I think I would be here, but I would have liked to have started a little earlier. Otherwise, I mean, don't drink a litre of tequila and expect that you're not going to pass out in a field. It's probably one other thing.
You got to go through those things.
I mean, I'm learning. That's part of learning. But no, travel and learn. Learn as much as you can and see as much as you can. Yeah. They're probably my two main pieces of advice.
Okay, Chloe, your last question. What do you know for sure?
Tomorrow will always be there. If today's bad, if it's crap, if something's happened, if, you know, you're having a really tough day, 99% chance that tomorrow will always be there, so you can start afresh. And it'll be better. And it will be better if you make it better. Yeah. It's probably, I mean, if ever I have a bad day, I'm always like, you know what, tomorrow's a new day. Yeah. I can start again, refresh. And that's a given. Yeah. Hopefully. Don't let it overwhelm you. Yeah. Chloe, thank you so much for being my life school guinea pig and giving me your time today. I know you're very busy running an empire and having two little ones. So thank you so much for being open and honest and sharing your story with us. Thank you. No problems. Thanks. If you would like to check out Chloe's business, Fox and Hound Communications, then visit www.foxandhoundpr.com or give them a follow on Instagram @foxandhound_comms. And to find out who my guests will be on the next episode of Life School, follow us on Instagram @LifeSchoolME, where you can keep up to date with all our news and find information on all our amazing guests. Thank you for listening to Life School, conversations to inspire action.